Good morning, everybody. Very good morning on this very beautiful morning of Sunday. Today, unfortunately, we have less participants, but I'm sure during this session we will be increasing the number of participants. However, just for information, the webinar series which we are doing right now are also getting uploaded on the website of LegGenius and on the YouTube channel also of LegGenius. So participants who are missing on this can always go through the YouTube channels, or else they can check it on LegGenius website even. So it was a wonderful sessions which we had in the past, and we got lots of positive and responses from people. Lots of positive comments, feedbacks are coming. Thank you very much for your appreciation and the kind of response you people are giving as a team. Thank you very much for that. Today's session we have about the occupational safety, health, and working condition code 2020. Of course, as usual, Advocate Sujit Salkar will be explaining us these things. Their explanation on this will be really very valuable for us, and I'm sure that we will have the learning through him one more time. All right. So I will request Mr. Sujit Salkar to please start with this presentation, because we all are very eager once again to listen from him about this occupational safety, health, and working condition code 2020. Thank you.
Correct.
Mr. Salkar, please.
Yeah. So today we will be discussing on the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code 2020. Basically, this code replaces 13 acts. Those 13 acts are Factories Act 1948, Plantation Labor Act 1951, Mines Act 1952, Working Journalist and Other Newspaper Employees Conditions Act 1955, Working Journalist Act 1958, Motor Transport Workers Act 1961, BD Cigar Workers Act 1966, Contract Labor Regulation and Abolition Act 1970, Sales Promotion Employees Act 1976, Interstate Migrant Workers Act, the Cine Workers Act, then Dock Workers Act 1986, Building and Other Construction Workers Act 1996. So all these acts, 13 acts have been all brought into one code, Occupational Safety Code. In short, it is Safety Code 2020. Now what is the object of this code is that to provide health conditions, safety conditions in factories, mines, and industrial establishments where industry is carried on. Now, we will be discussing today only the important features. Now, what are the important features of this code that we'll be discussing? Most important is registration provision. Now, every factory, mine, and all industrial establishments which are covered under this code, they will have to register themselves within 60 days from the coming into force of this code. So they have to make an application. That application has to be made to registered office, which will be prescribed under the code, and it has to be made electronically. However, if there is a delay, then a late fees are to be paid, and after paying of the late fees, that application will be considered. After all this particulars are furnished in that application, then a registration certificate will be provided for by the appropriate authority. Now, if there is any change in the ownership or management of or any particulars which are given in that application, so if change is to be made, that change can be made within 30 days from that change occurring, and that has to be made to that appropriate authority electronically. Again, within 30 days, that certificate will be amended certificate will be issued. If the employer wants to close the establishment, then he has to inform that to the authority under the code, and they will then cancel the registration certificate within 60 days from the making of the application. All the employers are required to register who are covered under the code. They have to register, otherwise they cannot engage any employee. So they cannot commence their business unless registration is effected. So if any person has any grievance regarding registration, cancellation, revocation, or non-grant of registration, they can make an appeal to appropriate authority. Then appropriate authority within 30 days will decide the appeal. So before starting any establishment, that is factories or mines, etc., or industrial establishments, notice has to be given to the appropriate authority. Now, so far as those establishments which are already covered under the code, is for example, a factory is already registered under Factories Act, then there is and or under Contract Labor Act, then they don't have to again register under this. So already which are all establishments which are already registered under the any provisions of the earlier acts, so they don't have to again register. But for new establishments, registration will be under this code when this code comes into force. Now basically this entire code focuses on safety and health conditions. Now what are the duties of the employers and employees? Now duties of the employers are that employer has to ensure that workplace, that the factory should be from hazard free, it should free from any occupational disease, or it should be so as to there should not be any injury or accident taking place. So they have to comply with all the rules and regulations provided under the code. The rules are not so far framed, but it will come in due course. Then health examination has to be done free of cost of all the employees. Then they have to provide an environment which is risk free. As far as toxic waste and hazardous chemicals are concerned, their disposal should be in such a way that it doesn't cause harm to employees or to public at large. So waste disposal treatment should be provided for, and every employee has to be given an appointment letter. So every employee engaged in a factory has to be given appointment letter within 3 months. So the entire responsibility of safety of the employees or workers engaged in this factories or mines is on the employer. So employer has to be very careful when setting up a factory or mines. He has to first see the first most priority will be safety. So he has to be conduct training programs. He has to give instructions. There should be proper supervision of functioning of the factory. Storage of goods, handling of material, toxic substance should be such that no untoward incident takes place. There should not be any accident which will lead to large scale damages. So factories which are dealing in chemicals or toxic gases, they should be very careful. So in short, the employee's duty is to ensure that none of the employees engaged by him suffer any accident or bodily injury, or any death is caused because of any accident. To avoid all these accidents, utmost care has to be taken by the employer. Now, this duty is also cast on the importers of the machines, manufacturers, designers, and suppliers of all machines to such factories. So all these importers, they have to see that the safety of the products are at utmost standards, of very high standards. Then the provisions are there for giving notices. Now, if there is any accident, then the employer has to give notice within 48 hours. Even if it causes bodily injury or not, it has to give notice of 48 hours to the appropriate authority. And if there is accident which causes bodily injury also, then 48 hours notice is to be given. And then if that accident will be inquired into by the chief inspector cum facilitator, he will he will inspect what are the causes of the accident, and he will take appropriate action if it is found that employer has been negligent. Then in case of dangerous occurrences in the factory or mines, that is also to be notified to the appropriate authority, that is inspectors. Even in cases of occupational disease arising often of due to the factories, due to the employment, then in that case also notices are to be given to chief inspector cum facilitator. So these notices are to be given in cases of accidents, and thereafter appropriate action will be taken. Now, duty is cast on the employers as well as on employees also. So employees are also uh, are responsible for following the instructions, safety instructions given by the employer. So it is not that only employer is responsible for safety, but for safety of the employees, employee himself has to take reasonable care of himself and other persons and follow the safety guidelines, safety instructions, and he has to cooperate with employer for meeting the statutory obligations. So he also is responsible for safety. So there should not be negligence on part of the employee also. So all instructions for operating of machines or for handling of materials, etc., should be done by the employee as per the instructions given to him. So same time duties are cast as well as given to employees. Now suppose if an employee feels that there are not safety provisions are not maintained, then he can inform the employer to make appropriate provisions regarding safety and health conditions. And at same time he can inform to the inspector cum facilitator. Now this provision is with the aim that accident is prevented. If an employee suggests something, then employer has to rectify whatever suggestions are made so as to avoid any danger or any accident or any untoward incident which may cause bodily harm or injury to the employees. And if the employer feels that no, there is no such imminent danger, that ultimately matter will be decided by the inspector cum facilitator. Now, so far as all these provisions of safety, they are to be, there is some disturbance. Hello. Occupational safety and health advisory boards are to be constituted under the Act. They will provide for rules and safety of the. Hello, there is some disturbance. Then the Act provides for research provisions. Research will be made on occupational safety of the establishments. Then there will be health surveys conducted by chief inspector. So all the employees will be undergoing medical examination, and they will, at any time there will be health survey. So all employers have to facilitate the health surveys, and they have to facilitate the inspectors appointed under the code. So for implementing the provision code for safety committees will be appointed, and this will be consisting of employers and workers. Then safety officers will also be appointed for implementation of the code, so as to ensure that there is a safety and working conditions are safe. So every establishment where factory is there, where 500 or workers or more are there, or in a factory which is involved in a hazardous process, then in that case, if there are 250 workers, and in building and construction having 250 workers, then in those cases, safety officers are to be appointed. Now the duty of employer also is that to ensure that in its establishment there should be cleanliness, hygiene, in order to avoid any type of disease. Then ventilation, temperature, humidity should be so as to be, for the working conditions should be such that it should not lead to any accident. So environment should be very dust free. The noxious gases should not be there. There should not be any impurity. Then there should be provision for potable drinking water. There should not be overcrowding. Adequate light should be there, so that when worker is doing his job, he should concentrate on his job. There should be uh, anything which may cause accident. So all this waste material should be effectively treated so as to avoid any kind of accident. Now provisions are made for safety as well as for welfare. Provisions are also made in this code. Now the establishments are to provide welfare facilities that may be prescribed by the government, which may be, for example, washing facilities for male and female employees, bathing facilities, locker rooms should be there, and there should be sitting arrangements. Canteen facilities will be provided in 100 or more workers, including all these contract laborers are there in any establishment, then canteen facilities are to be provided. Then ambulance has to be provided. First aid box has to be provided. So in cases if there is accident or immediate need for any medical facility, so the first aid should be there. So, as well as there should be ambulance. Then there should be shelter rooms also. Cases of industrial establishments, they can provide for temporary accommodation of certain employees who do not, who have to stay in the factory. For them, temporary accommodation also has to be provided. Crash should also be provided for female employees. Now we come to which say that what should be the hours of work. So in factories and mines, the hours of work should be 8 hours, and separate intervals and all will be prescribed. So far rules are not framed. So once the rules come, we'll be able to know how much, what is the working hours. And weekly holidays are to be provided by all the establishments. Now this, there is provision for annual wages also. So for every 21 days completed, 1 day privilege leave will be given. So this he can at the time of termination he can get that. At same time, this privilege leave or annual leave that has to be encashed. So maximum annual leave which can be carried forward is up to 30 days. So once the 30 days limit is crossed, he can encash this annual leave at the end of the year. Now all these safety provisions and all this has to be recorded. So employer has to maintain all these records, and he has to, as records will be prescribed, and he has to display notices in the factory at the prominent places. And duty is cast on the employer to issue wage slips to the workers in electric form or otherwise in manually also. And he can file return electronically or manually to the inspector. Now the Now these inspectors come facilitators. They will have powers to enter factory premises at any time. They can also have, there is provision for web-based inspection, as well as manually he can inspect the factories and see whether the code is being complied with. So all these provisions are made. Inspector come facilitator has powers to search, seizure all the records he can search, and he can enter premises anytime. And his aim and object will be to facilitate the compliance of the code. So if he finds something that code's provisions are being violated, he will point out and that has to be rectified. An opportunity will be given to employer to rectify provisions of the, to rectify his mistakes and comply with the code. Every establishment has to appoint medical officers also. So far as women workers are concerned, provisions are made that they can work even during night, provided there should be safety standards should be there, safety conditions and other conditions which will be prescribed by the government. So that has to be followed. And employees, women employees also can work in night shifts. The important provision is of contract labor. Now, the Contract Labor Act 1970 it provided for abolition and regulation of the contract labor. So, in the earlier Contract Labor Act 1970, there were provisions for boards. There were boards which that is state advisory board and central advisory board, which will recommend the government whether an activity has, has to be prohibited or abolished. So all these boards used to recommend to the government, and government used to abolish the contract labor. Now these provisions are now no more. So there is straight away abolition of contract labor in core activities. So earlier provisions which the recommendation should be given and government will act upon that and it will prohibit, all this has gone. Now only what they have done is in core activities they have straight away prohibited, exceptions are given. Now what is core activity, that is they have defined. Now core activity is activity which is essential to the main activity. It is the main activity which has to be one. What are the exceptions to core activity? What are exclusions? The exclusion are, for example, transport activities, canteen facilities, then your security, housekeeping services. All these are excluded in the core activity. So you can engage contract labor in all those activities which are not part of core activity. Now this Contract Labor Act It is significant change is that it is now made applicable to establishments which are engaging 50 or more workers. So earlier it was 20, now they have made it 50. So most of the establishments which are less than 50, they are not covered under the code. So they don't with the provisions of this code. So all establishments, so far as this chapter is concerned, in respect of principal employer, and for contractor, this code will be applicable. This part of the code will be applicable only in cases if he is engaging 50 or more contract laborers. The definition of contractor remains same. Definition of the contract labor, it includes interstate migrant workers, and it excludes any employee who is regularly working in a with the contractor and he is having service conditions same as regular permanent employees of the contract labor. Those are excluded. So applicability provisions are made that only if establishment having 50 or more, this chapter will apply. No. So every contractor has to obtain a license. He can obtain a license fulfilling the conditions and qualifications as mentioned in the rules which will come into force. And this he can apply electronically, and this license can be renewed. If there is there are provisions for revocation of license also if it is obtained by fraud. So if any contractor is aggrieved by revocation of license, of non-renewal of license or non-granting of license, he can appeal to appellate authority provided under the code. Now, so far as contractor is concerned, he cannot charge any fees from the contract labor, any commission from the contract labor. So if there is some amendment has to be carried out, if he wants to increase the number of contract labor, then he can apply and he get amended the license. And if he is aggrieved by any act of registering authority, licensing authority, he can file an appeal. So remedy is provided for him to file an appeal. So welfare facilities which we earlier discussed, that also should be provided by principal employer to contract labor also. Like locker rooms, bathing facilities, canteen facilities, etc. wherever applicable. Now these provisions also provide that what is the effect of engaging a contractor who is not having license, then it will be deemed that he has contravened the provisions of the code. But these provisions are not very clear. It has ambiguity and it may cause further litigation. So they have not spelled out what will be the effect of the engaging of contractor without a license. So far as payment of wages are concerned, liability is on the contractor. And if he fails, then wages are to be paid by the principal employer, and principal employer in turn can recover it from the contractor. Every contractor has to give experience contract labor. Now the code straight away prohibits engagement of contract labor in core activities. So in the core activities, there is prohibition. What are the exceptions? There are three exceptions. That is, if that establishment is normally carrying out the function through the contractor, or if in cases where full-time workers are not required and that activity is very short period, but though it is a core activity, but it cannot be engaged by, it cannot be done by a full-time worker. A casual worker has to be engaged or temporary be engaged. So contract labor can be used in such cases. Suddenly, if there is an increase in cost, or if there is increase in if there is increase in the demand, then in that case, contract labor can be engaged in core activity. So suppose now Diwali season is coming. So if there is a demand for a particular product in Diwali, so they can engage for this period contract labor in core activity also. Now, if there arises and there is bound to dispute regarding core activity, so all these core activities, if their dispute arises, then it will be decided by the government. So application has to be made to the government whether any activity is core activity or not, and then it will be decided by the government as per the rules to be framed. So, so entire process, earlier process which was there, that application has to be made for to abolition of contract labor, and then the state advisory board will have meetings, and then they will recommend to the government then will decide. That all has been now done away with, and it is now straight away activities in core activities contract labor is prohibited. Only exceptions are there. In exceptional cases you can engage contract labor. Otherwise, in support services, which are like transport services, courier service, etc., canteen services, housekeeping services, or in that the contract labor can be engaged. So far as disputes regarding, there is no provision for resolution of dispute whether an employee engaged by a contractor, whether he is an employee of a principal employer or is employee. That so far there is no provision. Only they have made definition of the employer as includes contractor, but still disputes will arise whether contract labor engaged is an employee of principal employer or not. So far as that litigations will be there. Now coming to interstate migrant workers, provisions are, what are interstate migrant workers are, these are also one type of contract labor. They are included in the definition of the contract labor. Now suppose an agreement is made in one state for engagement of a contract labor, and he is working, he has to work in another state. For example, agreement is made in Maharashtra, an employee is in Maharashtra, but his residence is in Maharashtra, but he has to work in somewhere in Karnataka or Kerala or maybe in West Bengal. So in such cases, he will be an interstate migrant worker. So every establishment which are engaging 10 or more migrant workers, they have to comply with the provisions of this code. So every contractor has to ensure that conditions of work of these interstate migrant workers are as per the rules provided. And if there is a fatal accident, then it has to be informed to the authorities. These interstate migrant workers are to be covered under ESI PF Act, and the employer has to provide for journey allowance from his home state to the place of employment, that as per is prescribed under the code. Then there will be a toll-free helpline to these interstate migrant workers, and also government will provide for PDS, public distribution system, for this interstate migrant workers and his families. As earlier discussed, the Cine Workers Act has been repealed. So now provisions are for audiovisual workers. Those are audiovisual workers are those who are working in any cinema, feature film, advertising film, or any serials, or any animations. All these artists or any skilled, unskilled workers are covered under this part of the code. So only provision is made that there should be an agreement. Without any agreement, all these employees cannot be engaged for audiovisual work. So there should be agreement between the producer of that audiovisual program and these workers. And this agreement has to be sent to the appropriate authority under the code. And it should be providing for what agreement should provide for what is the nature of assignment, what will be the wages, what will be the health conditions, safety conditions, hours of work, welfare facilities to be provided, and if there is dispute, how that dispute will be resolved. All should be provided in the agreement. So safeguard is there that all these agreements should be in writing so that these workers are not exploited. And all these provisions have to be provided in the agreement, and agreement has to be informed to the authority. And in case if the dispute is not resolved as per the mechanism provided in the agreement, then that will be an industrial dispute, and it has to be tried by the tribunal, before the tribunal under the Industrial Disputes Act. Then provisions are made for appointment of managers in cases of mines. So and this manager will be responsible for control and supervision of the mine, and he has to see to is the safeguards are complied with the mines as per the code given. And cigar workers cases, an employer can use industrial premises for manufacturing BD and cigar, but he has license as per the code, and thereafter he can engage employees for manufacturing of BDs. In cases of building and construction workers, provision is made that a deaf or a person with defective vision, he cannot be engaged. Naturally, to avoid any untoward accident, this provision is made. For factories to obtain license, first they have to submit plans, they have to get permission of constructions, and they have to apply to inspector come facilitator. And within 30 days, that inspector come facilitator, after examining the application, and if it is as per the rules, he will grant license. If within 30 days, if he doesn't take any decision, it will be deemed to have been granted. License is granted within 30 days. The licensing authority can refuse to grant license. So if they in cases of hazardous chemicals, factories which are making an application which are involved in any production of hazardous chemicals or any hazardous process. In that case, an appraisal committee will be constituted, and it will recommend to the government for granting or not granting of licenses. So factories involving in hazardous process, they have to inform to the government what will be the imminent dangers, what will be health hazards, what will be the consequences of this manufacturing process, what is likelihood of any untoward incident. All this has to be informed by the occupier to the chief inspector come facilitator. So he has to further inform of the waste disposal, etc. So occupier of the factory is responsible for complying with the conditions given to the hazardous process. It will be laid down how hazardous materials will be transported, of the hazardous materials, all these provisions will have to be made. Involving hazardous process, health records are to be maintained, medical records of the workers are to be maintained by the occupier. And he has to appoint persons who are well qualified and experienced in handling hazardous materials. And before engaging these workers, they have to be medically examined. The course of employment, medical examination has to be done every year. Government will also prescribe its permissible limits of exposure of chemicals and toxic substance in cases of process in a factory. So for safety of the workers, even government can prescribe permissible hazardous chemicals, like wherever explosive materials are to be manufactured, or any chemicals which are inflammable chemicals. So in factories where the hazardous processes are carried out, and if an employee feel there is a likelihood of danger to their life, then they can bring to the notice of the occupier or to the factory in charge or to safety committee or to inspector come facilitator, and appropriate taken by the occupier, and whatever action is taken he has to report it to inspector. So if a employee feels that some changes are to be made in a manufacturing process to avoid accidents, that has to be considered and it cannot be taken lightly. And ultimate decision will be of that inspector come facilitator. Now provisions are also made regarding plantations. Now, workers who are working in tea plantations and etc. So all they have to be provided housing, accommodation, drinking facilities, kitchen, toilet, etc. to their families. Crash facilities are to be provided. Educational facilities are to be provided by the employer. Health facilities are to be provided. Medical facilities are to be provided to the workers working in plantations. So government will all at time to time provide rules regarding to be followed by the employer regarding the facilities to be provided under the core. This code provides for penalties. A general penalty is there if any provision of this code is violated or rules, bylaws are violated by employer, principal employer, it will be a offense. So strict provisions are made. All the provisions of the code are to be followed. If anything is violated, it shall be a fine. It shall be a offense and it shall be punishable with a penalty with which may be from 2 lakhs to 3 lakhs. And if conviction is there, then for it every day it will be 2 lakhs if it continues. So stringent provisions are made for any violation of the code. So employers are to strictly follow the provisions of the code. So if the any employer prevents any inspector, that is also an offense. So if the inspector is carrying out his duty and if employer doesn't allow him or he refuses him giving him any inspection, so that will be an offense. And it shall be punishable with a fine as well as imprisonment. And if it and if he commits it second time, it will be for 6 months imprisonment and fine up to 1 lakh rupees. There is also provision made for if there is a non-maintenance of records and register, that is also an offense punishable under the code, and it shall be punishable. It shall be fine up to 50,000 rupees, but which may extend to 1 lakh rupees. So all the employers are to required to maintain proper records and registers under the code. So all the rules have to be followed, records are to be maintained, and if these records are falsified, if false records are prepared by the employer, that is also an offense. Similarly, for factories, if plants are not furnished, then it is an offense under the code. So far as provisions regarding hazardous chemicals, factories involved in process of hazardous chemicals are concerned, fine is provided from 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs, and if the contravention continues, it shall be 25,000 for every day. And if that fine continue, and if that offense continues for a further period, it shall be punishable with a punishment for 3 years. In cases of hazardous chemicals, provisions are made stringent. So if safety provisions are violated and if there is a bodily injury or death causing death, in that cases it is an offense, violation of the safety provisions. It will be punishable with fine of up to 2 years, up to 5 lakhs, punishment up to 2 years, or fine with 5 lakhs. And in case of bodily injury, if safety provisions are violated, then it will be 1 year punishment, and additional fine will be there up to 4 lakh rupees. So safety provisions are to be scrupulously followed by the employer. If any provision is violated leading to accident, bodily injury, or any death, punishment of imprisonment is provided for. So if in cases of mine, if manager is not appointed as required under the code, it is also a punishable offense up to fine as well as imprisonment. Imprisonment of 3 months and 1 lakh rupees. Even cases of employees on, if employee doesn't follow the provisions under this code, he shall also be punished with an offense, which may be up to a fine of rupees 10,000 rupees. In cases of an offense committed by companies, the person who was responsible at time of the conduct of the business, he shall be guilty of the offense. In cases of factory, it will be occupier or manager as the case may be. So all these offenses, there is a limitation period provided for. That limitation period, within that limitation period, that inspector has to prosecute. So within 30 days from the knowledge of the offense, the inspector has to prosecute. He has to first give an opportunity to the employer, and if the employer doesn't comply with the provisions of the code despite giving an opportunity, then the inspector can proceed filing of complaint, etc. Only metropolitan magistrate can take cognizance of the offences under the code. There is provisions made for composition of offences also. So if in cases of fines, offences can be compounded. The provisions are code are made effective, notwithstanding anything inconsistent made under any other code. So the provisions which are made under this safety code will prevail if there is inconsistency in any other state law or other central law in respect of the same subject matter. So this is sum and substance of this. We come to an end of this session, and sum and substance of this safety code is ultimate safety of the workers, public, and all those who are involved in the factories and mines. So duty is cast not only on employer but also on employees to ensure safety. So mechanism is made so that safety provisions are strictly complied and there is no untoward accident, there is no injury, bodily injury or death of an employee. So with this, I conclude this session. Now I hand over this to Samruddha Bharat Sangh, Mr. Audumbar.
Thank you very much, Sujit. It was really a great session for us to have this kind of learning about the safety-related activities. So thank you very much once again, and I thanks to all the participants also being here and giving your contribution towards it. If anybody has any questions, I will request the team members to please ask the questions. Any of the participants has any kind of questions?
Hi, Sujit.
Hi.
Ilam,
Yeah.
how are you?
Hi. Fine.
Good.
I think Mr. Ravinder is trying to say something.
Yeah. Hi, Audumber. Okay, Sujit, I needed to know how is this amendment that we are talking about, this law?
Sorry, we
It's
are
all
not able to hear you clearly. Can you speak
okay.
little
Wait.
loudly?
Has this law is already in force, or it is yet to come into force?
It has yet to come into force in this
No,
they
it's
have,
a military period, right? 6 months where a person can challenge this law by itself, right?
yeah. It has
Okay.
not come into force. It has not come into force.
When do you expect this to come into force?
December this year.
December. Okay. If not challenged, it will become a law.
No, in December they have to frame rules now. Once the rules
Okay.
are passed, thereafter a notification will come from the government for enforcing of this code. So unless that notification comes, this code
Yeah. Completely understand. Completely understand. Okay. So, but if this comes, those 13 acts will become null and void. Correct?
yeah. Those will go. It will repeal. They
It
will
will
be
be
repealed.
repealed.
Yeah. It will be repealed.
Okay. Okay. Fine. I would appreciate if you can share that one snapshot where all those 13 things I mentioned will be repealed provided this comes into force. Because I remember you sharing quite a lot of facts. I did not make any notes, but I'm sure
Yeah, we
if
will share.
that one snapshot. These are the many laws which will be repealed in provided this particular law comes into
Correct.
force with the rules which will be followed in December. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you, Sujit. It was really one
Yeah,
nice knowing with the kind of intricacies that you have put us through. It is we need to upgrade and update ourselves also.
correct.
Thank you so much, Sujit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Audumber, take over.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Elampante. Thank you very much. Anybody else has any kind of questions? So I think if anybody has any questions in future, I'll request you to please get connected on the number which is there, 9372 886473, or you can also email it to info@legenius.in. Your queries will be handled on that ID. Okay. I will also would like to announce the upcoming event, which is there on 18th of October, the coming Sunday. And the subject will be intellectual property rights on patents, basically. And we have Advocate Samruddhi Fadke, who will be doing this session for us. All right. As I said at the start of this session, that we are uploading these session videos on our website, that is on LegGenius website. And also the YouTube channel is already activated, so you can go through that also for the references. All right. If any queries, please get connected with us. And I thanks once again Advocate Sujit Salkar for having this kind of wonderful session with us. And always the sharing which they have done will always have that as a knowledge which he has shared basically will remain with us. All right. Thank you very much to all.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you very much to Samruddha Bharat Sangh and LegGenius for organizing this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Have a
Thank you.
wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.